Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Etienne Leon Jackson II. I am a junior communication studies major with a minor in business administration from Atlanta, Georgia. And today I am here with.
Luca Chuecos, also from Morehouse College.
So, Luca is a junior here at Morehouse College. Luca, what are your roots?
My roots. So my mom is Chinese and white, and my dad's Venezuelan.
Okay. So, today we're going to be talking about Luca's Venezuelan side. First things, what's it like being Venezuelan in America?
That's actually really interesting because right now it's like obviously it's like very polarizing, because there's a lot of people on the uh, I used to say Latin side who support Trump, which is really crazy to see. And it's weird because I even have some family members who are like that, who really kind of like try to like buy in and try to integrate into American culture as much as possible to feel, I guess, accepted. But the reality is, and for obviously some people in my family as well, that's not the case. There's a lack of acceptance, a lack of understanding of the culture, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So,
Anything
could
else?
you could you elaborate on that? What are some important values of Venezuelan culture that you kind of hold close to your heart?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's any different from any other kind of culture in terms of just something like specific or unique. But I'll say something that's always really stood out to me has been honestly family and just having a good time. Like, we know how to throw a party, we know how to get some food, all that.
Okay. So, what parts of American or maybe Venezuelan culture do you feel influence each other?
Hmm. That's actually really interesting. I don't think I know, honestly.
Okay. You feel like Venezuelan culture stands out on its own in its own way?
Yeah, it does. Because there's honestly there isn't a ton of Venezuelan representation in American culture. You know, obviously there's a lot of Mexican representation, Puerto Rican, Cuban, heck, even Dominican representation now is kind of coming more to the forefront, especially with the WBC and just the internet in general. Like, a lot of that culture has been brought to the forefront. But Venezuelan culture, I don't think people really tapped into yet.
Okay. Cool. So, I know for me being an African American male, right, sometimes our culture can be suppressed. Can you speak to suppression of Venezuelan culture?
100%. I feel like as someone who is passing white, there's a lot of my experience, especially being in like white spaces growing up, has been basically almost like trying to like pull back from my roots, trying to fit in or not to get bullied, and it would basically be like me just trying to like almost like disregard that side of who I am, like, oh no, I'm not this, oh no, I'm not trying, I'm white, but it's like in reality is like no matter what you do, you're always going to be other, just because of the fact that you don't fit in, because you don't look, you don't act, and your culture is just completely different.
Okay, cool. So, my next question would be what are some traditions or celebrations that go on in Venezuela?
Some traditions. I mean, shoot, we got Halloween, we got Christmas, all
Okay.
that kind of stuff. I would say the only big difference is like just the amount of food and partying. Like
Okay.
it's really like not too crazy in terms of like the term in terms of how we celebrate, but it's just the unique foods we bring to the table. So it's like we got pan de jamon, we got repas, we got cachapas, all that shit, ayacas, you know, a bunch of shit. On my fault, a bunch of stuff like that that I think really sets us apart from American culture and other cultures. It makes what makes us unique.
Okay. So, for our next question, I would like to ask have you ever been to Venezuela yourself?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Do you have plans to visit anytime soon?
I would like to visit. I would like to visit.
Okay. So, have you ever been to the continent of Africa?
No.
Okay. Well, these are all fine. I wanted to ask that to kind of give our audience a little bit more gauge on where you may have been in the world to see if you may be able to see it yourself, even though you do have those roots.
Hmm.
So, in terms of being Venezuelan, correct, can you speak to how maybe respect is shown in your culture in certain ways?
I mean, I think it's really like, especially like for the men, it's like, Latin culture is very like, there's a lot of machismo and stuff like that. I feel like my experience with my dad, I don't have the best relationship with him, but even just, from seeing him and from seeing my grandfather, it's very much like that kind of tough guy approach. Like, you don't cry, you don't kind of let these emotions in, and like what's respected is anger or violence, and that's what's really acknowledged. But you know, just the man's the head of the household, all that kind of stuff, basically.
Okay. So cool. What are some common misconceptions about your culture?
That we're violent. I feel like definitely a lot in the media. Trump likes to flip it. Trump was saying that we're violent, we're rapists, we're what was it, narco terrorists? He said something like that, and then it's like now we're victims. We're people that need to be saved. You know, I think that's like we're talking about misconceptions. Correct me if I'm right.
Correct.
I think that's a huge misconception about us. We're fucking my fault. We're people. We're people. No matter who we are, no matter what skin color we are, we're people.
So if I could follow up with that, how would you go about possibly changing some misconceptions about your culture?
Just, I mean, I try doing it myself just through who I am, representing for my culture, showing up for my culture. Obviously, I can't speak for the side of the media. I would love to get more coverage that's positive towards Venezuelan people.
So Luca, as a follow-up question, how do you see Venezuelan culture in the media through your perspective?
Through my perspective, I mean, I'm really hurt. I'm not gonna lie. Every time I see it on the news and on the media, it's like not only is it like cruel the way they talk about my people, but it's also like intentional too. Like when they want to villainize immigrants, like I said, they call us narco terrorists, they call us rapists, they call us all kinds of things but human. But when it's to justify invading a sovereign country, it's, oh, they need our help. These poor Venezuelan people, they need to be saved. It's like I don't. Some people don't know what it is, but I know what it is. Some people within my culture don't even know what it is, but I know what it is. And it's disheartening. It's disheartening watching like the media twist this image about people who are just trying to better their lives, people who are just like you and me.
So, and I'll say, as a as a Venezuelan, how do you see family dynamics from a cultural standpoint kind of helping you get through what you see in the media and kind of like you said, kind of speak to that emotional factor of how that's not what you see. Like how like, can you speak to what you see inside the home from a Venezuelan perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to my grandma. My grandma, she's not a U.S. citizen. She's lived here her whole life. Bless her shit. But every day, like even like when there's issues between my mom and my dad, and my dad wasn't exactly the best example for me. My grandma was always in my life. My grandma would take us to school, take care of us, feed us, all this kind of stuff. And my mom was going through her own problems too, because we're not a perfect family. No one's a perfect family. They like to try to paint that as how it should be, but it's not. But my grandma was a hard working woman. She did a lot. She sacrificed a lot for us, for my family. Sacrificed a lot for me, just so I could have a good life. And I mean, I think that speaks to just the humanity of Venezuelan people. We're human. We work hard. We wake up. We love each other. We're just like anyone would. It's really all it is.
Okay. So, Luca, let me ask you, inside of the family household, right? Are there any specific sayings or phrases that maybe y'all would use as tradition?
Yeah, I mean, honest, I would have to ask my sister. My Spanish is nowhere near as good, and I'm not gonna try to, butcher my language like that. But my grandma would always say something when me and my sister would get into a fight, and it was like there'll be a little like mishap when we're playing a game. It's just like the saying was basically, you play rough games, you get hurt, and that's really all it is. I mean, you know, like I said, we got sayings, we got superstitions. You know, that's really it.
Okay. And as my last question for you, what advice would you give to somebody who may be interacting with a Venezuelan person for the first time, or maybe even just experiencing the culture?
Tolerance, being tolerant, being open, being respectful, and really just coming to the table with an open mind, being ready to learn. You know, and just respect, which everyone deserves.
Absolutely. So I can definitely agree with you on the respect.
Everyone deserves respect.
So thank you for you all's time. My name is Etienne Jackson. I'm here with,
Lucas Huecos.
and we have been great today. So thank you for you all.
Smooth. Smooth.